ever soiree the other night. Like at the age of 63, I've managed to swerve giving parties or dinner parties or anything. I mean, when people would visit just spontaneously, of course I would feed them and enjoy it, but I never planned a party ever
Wow.
until the other night. But I just moved into this house and I thought I'd
That's
better be a
amazing that
bit
you did that
sociable.
though.
And
Isn't that wonderful?
yeah,
And how
so
did it
so
go?
3 years clearly. It went
Yeah.
brilliantly. I didn't cook. I got pizzas from this amazing place in Brighton called Pizza Face.
Yeah.
And I just ordered, I ordered a huge amount of ice and I had a big bucket outside with all the beer and wine and Prosecco. And my dear, dear friends that I've known for 40 plus years came, so it wasn't going to fail. No
Oh,
one was going to be like, ooh, ooh. No, it was really, really good. I loved it. Everyone loved it. We sort of, I think everyone had left by about 3 a.m.
oh my God, that's a
So it
late
was
one.
late. It was late. And the next day, we all had sore heads. But yeah, it was really good. So yeah, you can sort of see how that Thuya type of, I don't know, personality or state was very much me back then. And over the years, I've kind of moved out of it. And I think my identity has changed so much as well. I'm old now. I'm a widow now. My son's left home. There's so many things that are completely like milestones that you can't help but change. And for me, in terms of like hiding, I don't anymore. I just think, well, I'm going to die soon, so I might as well live now.
You're not
And when
that
I say
old.
soon, I mean relatively.
You're not that old.
No, but the life in front of me is much shorter than the life behind me, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So it's not like I've got 50 years. Yeah. So I just think live now, grab it, enjoy it, have
Yeah.
fun. It's yeah. How about you? How was your fertility journey?
So I was always really, 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 really careful because I never wanted to have an abortion. So I was always extremely
Mm,
careful with my exposure to risk. And then
yeah.
um, when I wanted to get pregnant in my 30s, it didn't happen really. And so I got one of those persona machines, which told me when I was ovulating, and then just
Mm.
got both of my children using a persona machine on when I ovulated. That was it.
Is that one where you pee on it, pee on a
Yeah,
stick?
you pee on a stick and you plug
Yeah.
it into the machine and it tells you where you are, what's going on, and it just said
Mm.
ovulating. And I thought, okay. So
Go
I
for it.
got both of
And
them
you have
like
two
that.
sons. Lovely. With my patients that I mean, I really never recommend taking any synthetic hormones, so the pill,
Oh no.
HRT, all of that really well. But so for girls that want to be in control of their fertility, I always send them to eBay and this little machine, not machine, it's a little lens inside a microscope, but it looks like a lipstick and it costs £10.
Yeah.
And you kind of open it and the lens, you touch it on your tongue. And so whatever the saliva is that's in your mouth, you don't spit on it. It's got to be what's sitting in
Yeah.
your mouth. You put that on the lens, then you let it dry for a minute or so. Then you put it all together and then you hold it up and you press a little button where a light comes on
Yeah.
and you look through the lens. And if you are ovulating or at the beginning of ovulation, there'll be tiny ferns. If you're not ovulating, it's bubbles. So you could get bubbles with ferns around the outside. That means you can get pregnant. Or or you have full blown ferns. The whole thing is ferns. So ferns equals fertility,
Wow.
bubbles equals you cannot get pregnant.
I never heard of
And
this.
it yeah, no, it's brilliant. So it's because I used to try and do that the mucus
Oh
thing
yeah.
and
Yeah.
I mean it's all
I've never done
it would
that,
just
but my cousin did it, so I know about it. Mm.
I've read about it and it's been, in the books, it's super successful, but
Yeah.
I just would never really be able to tell with me. It was all, yeah, too changeable. But the saliva, yeah, it's brilliant. You
What's
can't
that thing
argue it.
called, that lipstick?
So if you put into eBay search saliva fertility microscope, something like that, or
Oh,
when you're a kid and you have one of those microscopes with the little glass um,
yeah.
slides, and you can do it with that as well. But it's so convenient to have a lipstick sized
Yeah.
item that you can keep in your handbag. It
Oh, I
just
love
looks very
that.
discreet. Any kind of microscope that shows, like I don't know how much it has to magnify, but however many times until you can see the bubbles.
Yeah.
But yeah, and
So,
then another thing is that you can time your pregnancy or when you get pregnant. Apparently, if you get pregnant early, it's more likely to be a female, and if you get pregnant late, it's more
yeah.
likely to be a male. Have you heard that?
I heard that if you get pregnant around the ovulation period, you're more likely to be male. But if it's outside of that immediate time, then it's more likely to be a girl. But I mean, who knows? Who knows really? Yeah.
I know I'd need to go back to the science with that one, but I just one of my patients, she was really into getting a girl. So she was trying to time it with her husband.
Wow.
But she said that the sperm that would make a boy is more lazy swimming, whereas the girls are
Oh,
more,
yeah.
yeah. But I don't know if that's true, Sue. I've no idea.
I don't
No
either.
idea at all.
I've got no idea. It's not something I've ever really looked into. So, but it is
Yeah, I
interesting
wouldn't.
to speculate, isn't it, nonetheless?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really like the idea of designer anything. So
Yeah,
designer baby doesn't appeal to me. You know, you just get what you're given. I
yeah.
remember when I was pregnant with him, at a certain point, one of the scans highlighted that I had a lot of amniotic fluid, and I was thinking, oh, lush, you can have a little swim in that lovely fluid. It sounded like a good thing. And she said, oh, no, 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 it's an indication of something wrong with your baby.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh, okay. And so they wanted to do the
And it,
amniocentesis where you got to sit completely still and they put a needle in. And I was just like, no, no, forget it. You know, this pregnancy was such a freaking miracle to begin with.
yeah,
And I did, well, if my baby has Down syndrome, that's fine. Whatever God or the cosmos sends me is
mm,
what I'm meant to have.
yeah,
And Finn was fine, so that was a scare that I didn't need, you know. So this happens quite often in pregnancies where you're told information that isn't actually correct,
yeah,
and people will make decisions, very big decisions, like an abortion, based on what they've been told from a scan.
yeah.
Yeah,
And also,
not
when
good.
mothers go into shock when pregnant, that can have a terrible effect on the baby. I've seen a few of those, like really, really traumatized children coming from mums who had terrible shocks while pregnant. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to go into that too much because some, a couple of my patients, but they're just, really, really traumatized. So working through that.
Yeah, well, they're swimming through the hormones that the mother's releasing, and of course. So can I ask you,
Yeah.
because you're an expert in the brain and the development of the brain, and why do children come born with dyslexia? What is that?
Okay, so first of all, before I answer that, I'm going to caveat what I say with anyone who's quite happy with how their brain is. It's not a disease, they're not ill, there's nothing wrong with them, okay? So
I think
um,
it's a bit of power.
the people I work with aren't happy with how their symptoms are affecting them and they want to come to me for help, okay? So it's never any
Mm,
judgment, wrong making or othering or any of that. So if we're going to just imagine that this is a neurotypical brain, okay, and it's forming in utero, so this neurotypical brain will be forming because of movement of the body. So movement of the body will make the nerve pathways start to grow. So it's movement of the body that makes the
okay.
brain, because the brain is just a feedback center for nerve inputs to nerve outputs. So the brain isn't really controlling anything, it's just a feedback center. So it's movements of the body.
Mhm.
Now, these movements of the body are called primitive reflexes. And so every neurotypical baby that is born across space and time who is neurotypical will have performed the same repetitive reflexes in utero, and those build the brain. Okay, so it might be all of these specific reflexes. Okay, so then the baby will be born. Two reflexes are used generally for birth, which is pushing up like that and doing this movement. And these will then become inhibited shortly after birth. And then the baby will go on to progress neurotypically. Okay, so if there's going to be atypical development or neurodiversity, it's because there's been a break in the neurotypical development. Okay, so
Okay.
something's happened to break new nerve pathways. So that could be
Mhm.
fever that the mum's had while baby is inside.
Oh,
Could be a fever when baby's born. It could be a shock during in utero. It could be a shock when baby's born. It could be specific medications. It could be certain injections, if you know what I mean. Anything that breaks
I
new
do.
nerve pathways can create neurodiversity. So the way I have observed this,
Okay.
let's just imagine that this end here is conception, and let's imagine birth is there, and then we've got
Mhm.
year one, year two, and so on. So if there is damage or something that's going to affect the development, the closer it is to conception, the more severe it's going to be. Okay. So once you've got to birth and
Oh,
things are going well, if something happens in the first year or two of life and you get sort of a break in your neurodevelopment there, that might be something on the milder end of things like dyslexia. But I will caveat again with the fact that some people are born, for example, with perfectly natural autism, and it's just perfectly normal for them.
mhm.
Some people are
Yeah.
born perfectly neurotypical, and then something happens, and then they can become autistic. There are those two, and then you might have somebody who is going to be born with an autism diagnosis, who then goes on to acquire
Yeah.
damage. Okay, so that seems to be what I have observed. I may not be correct,
Right.
but that is my observation. So all of the neurodiverse, go on, what?
Just wanted to ask about, so you were talking about the movements, the
Yeah,
reflexes in the
yeah,
womb. So
yeah,
do babies go through reflex stages
yeah,
like as they're developing? Are there stages that they need to reach
yes,
so that
yes.
then they can go on neurologically to grow the right pathways?
Exactly. So the way
Okay.
I think about it and describe it is that there are various stages, and it's like a computer game. So if you
Mm,
haven't completed that level, you can't go to the next level up. That's why people get stuck. So all dyslexia is your brain is stuck at an earlier stage than your chronological age. So if you complete those computer
right.
game levels, you can move up. Okay, it's that simple, and it's
Yeah.
of the body that facilitate this. Sometimes we have to do a heavy metal detox. Sometimes we might want to do a parasite cleanse. Sometimes we might want to tweak their diet a bit. Sometimes we don't have to do any
Mm,
of that. Sometimes they need homeopathy. Sometimes they just need neurodevelopment. But I've been doing this since 2007 when I started helping my own son, and I've worked with thousands of families. So what I'm saying is based on years of clinical experience and
yeah.
study and everything else. And yeah, does that answer?
So I remember, yeah, oh yeah, totally. But there's so many like nuances within that.
Oh God,
So
I just yeah,
So the things that kind of come in and disrupt the stages, the
yeah,
reflex stages,
yeah.
are there things, could it be something like um, mum had a scan and the baby did that, that thing like, I don't like the sound of the scan.
No,
Could
yeah,
that do something?
yeah.
Yeah, could that be
Um,
disruptive to the,
Before I had my kids, I looked into all of those scan things, and I knew that there was no,
hmm,
at the time, so we're talking plus 25 years ago, there was no legislation on how strong a scan could be. So
oh,
some people might get a low scan, and some people might get a higher one, and yes, it could affect the baby. And I was aware of that when I had mine, but I still had all the scans. Funny what we do. But
I
yeah,
know I had extra scans because they'd put the fear of God in me, so they needed to see me all the time.
oh
But
goodness,
I
yeah.
did also know about the dolphins and the sonar and all of that
Yeah.
and how it really hurts them. And I don't know, back then, when I was in my 30s, I wasn't as tough as I am now. And I was more inclined to go along with a certain amount of white coat advice. I'd sort of think, oh, you know what you're talking about, and I don't. But by the time Finn was born, I'd lost all of that. So
Yeah.
it's like, get off me, get
How
away
old
from
is
me.
Finn now? Is he just around 30-ish then?
He's 26. Yeah, he'll be
Oh, okay.
27 in October. Yeah, so it's whizzing by. Yeah, so
So
I was
then
36 when I.
oh yeah, I was 30, just 36 when I had my Toby. But your Finn is just 2.5 years older than my Toby. Yeah, yeah.
We were geriatric. If you're over 25, they call you geriatric as a
Hilarious. And
pregnant
I was
person.
38 when I had Stefan, my youngest.
Oh
So
gosh.
yeah, only just though, because Toby's a January and I'm a December, so I just clicked over to 36 when I had him, and I just clicked over
Yeah.
to 38 when I had Steph. Yeah,
So 2 years between the boys.
yeah.
Oh, lovely. And what made you study homeopathy, Sue?
When I was around 25, I was a journalist, I was a magazine editor, and I had really bad IBS and anxiety. I was super stressed. And I rocked into my homeopath's office on the behest of my friend who'd been helped greatly. She was a homeopath called Marion Howie, who's Scottish, and she was living down in Essex. And I went to see her in Colchester, and I was wearing a jacket with a coat over the top. I can't remember what time of year it was. I think it was spring. And she just listened to
Yeah.
me and prescribed me Nux Vom.
Did you? Were
Yeah,
you really
as
nuts?
remedy. And I just thought, oh, that's really funny because as soon as you learn about remedies, you go, well, I probably was in a complete Nux Vom state because I was, a really stressed out journalist with quite a lot of
Yeah.
anxiety. So yeah.
Yeah.
So she gave me that, and she helped me over my IBS, which they told me was incurable, but I got over that. Um, yeah,
That
and I
means
just
they can't cure it. Doesn't mean
sorry,
it's incurable.
yeah, and
That just means they can't.
they can't, yeah. After that, I used to get a lot of arsenicum when I was coming up to my exams. I used to get really anxious. I remember one time I went to see my homeopath, Marion, and I'm in her office, and I was going, "Oh, I'm so stressed about my exams, rah 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 rah." And she took the lid off arsenicum. I don't know if it was a 1M, and the two of us, we could not stop laughing as soon as the lid came off this bottle. Absolutely filled the room up with arsenicum vibes, and we could not stop laughing. In fact, both of us were on the floor, absolutely. And it was just, yeah, arsenicum is the fastest acting remedy. It's just like that.
Fantastic.
I love arsenicum.
Amazing.
I take a lot of it.
I
So,
gave arsenicum to someone I was working with in the Nutri Centre a long time ago. And I don't remember why I gave it to him. And I didn't even take his case. I think he said, excuse me, he had a headache or something. I can't remember. But anyway, gave him arsenicum. And after about 5 minutes, he was one of the telephonist guys. So
oh, yeah.
really busy on the phone, like. And then he came back into the bookshop where I was and he opened his shirt and he said, look, and his heart was beating out of his chest.
Crikey.
And I was like, what have I done? I was so
Oh, God.
scared. And I know. So I was like, drink coffee, drink coffee. It did nothing. And I don't remember how I antidoted it, but I did. I can't remember what I had. It would have been something in the blue box.
How bizarre that you
But
reacted like that to arsenicum. That's unbelievable, isn't
yeah,
it? Wow.
yeah, you could actually see his heart in his
Yeah.
chest. It was so profound. So I think I learned quite early on about the power of homeopathy to cause, a reaction or like not necessarily, it's not all kind of fairy dust and lovely where you just remedy and it's all
Oh,
good. You
no.
do often, an aggravation, proving, there are lots of things that can happen that are kind of, or seem negative, that in the bigger picture they're not, but
Yeah.
when it's going on, it can feel really negative. I remember I had Aristolochia for something hormonal. And these two fingernails, I got an abscess under both of them,
Oh,
and it was for days and days. And then eventually the nails came off. It was so
oh,
painful and so
that's
yeah,
bizarre.
mad.
How incredible that that should be
So I'm
part of
really sensitive.
your. Wow.
No, I'm so sensitive to the remedies. And Finn, my son, is also very sensitive. So
Yeah.
once when he was very little, he was having an asthma attack. And it was so bad that I thought, I'd even opened the window to let air in the room. I thought, oh, give him carbo veg.
Yeah.
And then he got worse.
Oh no.
Like carbo veg is like survivor, where you don't give it unless the person's really,
Yeah.
struggling to. And he got worse. And it was me and him at home in the afternoon, which I'm grateful for because had my husband been there, he'd have called the ambulance. And so, but I just gave him silica 30 and he came back like
Oh my
that
God,
and
that's
he was great. And that was his remedy for years. It's probably
silicone.
still his remedy now.
Oh, bless him.
Yeah, so I learned on the coal face. I really did. And bless Finn letting me, use him as a as
Yeah.
a practicing person.
My
My guinea
oldest
pig.
Toby, he he never needed any remedies. He was so healthy. The only thing he ever had was his navel wouldn't heal when he was born. His umbilical cord, his belly button, didn't heal for months. And
Mm.
I could not get that healed. In the end, the midwife gave me a powder. But other than that, he never had any remedies at all. He was just never sick.
Okay.
I know.
Wow.
Yeah. Um,
You,
mm,
thank God. Thank God. I mean, I
yeah,
was lucky that Baz never argued with me. He just said, well, you've studied it, you know what you're talking about, so you decide.
yeah,
So I was so fortunate because it's such a big thing. And you've got this tiny baby and you really just think that everything's going to kill it, don't you?
yeah,
Everything else is like a hazard. And so
yeah.
there's a lot of, and so if someone's coming up saying, do this because it'll save your baby's life, it's really hard to sort of go, no, let me just think about that for a minute and do some research.
It
So,
is very
but it seems to be
confronting. Yeah.
more and more people these days, since COVID, more and more people seem to be asking questions. Thank God,
Yeah, still
because
not enough though. But I think we've got a long way to go. But
yeah,
hopefully you're right. Yeah.
I think they are. I think they are. Yeah. Yeah. So, what else should we talk about?
Um, well, I could tell you about what I do to help people who've got breaks in their development and neurodevelopment issues.
That
There
would
is
be so.
well, there's an exercise program that I learned from my teacher in Oregon, and she trained me for 5 years in neurodevelopment. And the brain learns through movement, as we know from those really early in fetal movements. And so, if we repeat those stages, then we can iron out the creases and give the brain another chance to develop optimally, as if no.
Even this, could you do it with old people?
Yeah, yeah, because the brain is plastic. We've got over 100 nerve growth factors in our brain. A woman called Rita Levi-Montalcini won a Nobel Prize for her discovery and work with nerve growth factors in the 1985. She won that. So with all these nerve growth factors that we all have, it's every time we learn something new, um, new nerve growth factors get fired and start to make new connections in the brain. That's why it's so important to keep moving and to keep your brain going and keep it optimum and to
Yeah.
learn new things all the time, because otherwise your brain will just apoptosis, selective cell death. You'll think, oh, I don't need that, and it will just cull it. So you've got to keep on top of it if you want to have a really optimal functioning brain.
That's one of the brilliant things about moving to Brighton from London is that I don't know anything here. So I'm having to learn and rewire my brain and navigate these streets, learn the names, learn, what happens where. And
Yeah,
so it's like a sort of very passive way of doing what you're talking about. Like
yeah.
it just
It's
is
so
happening without.
important. It's so important. Yeah.
And the movements you talk about, are they just very easy movements or are they like exercise? What kind
Yeah,
of
the
things?
physical. The hardest one is the fencer. So you're like, okay, because
Oh,
all of our intelligence is up here in the hemispheres, whereas all the things that make you dyslexic are going along down here in the brainstem. So if the
okay.
brainstem's not working properly, which is a lower computer game level, if that's not working, then everything above it's not going to be able to work either. So we just sorted
Right.
out the muscles and nerves to make his eyes work properly and a few other bits. And he went on to do, I can't remember the exact number of GCSEs, but it was more than 10, I think. He got A
My
levels,
God.
he
Poor
got
Finn.
a music degree, and he's just won an award for best soundtrack for an indie film. How incredible is that for a
Oh,
guy that they said, I
oh,
mean, he's a
fantastic.
genius. He's always been a genius since he was discussing
Yeah.
string theory and M theory at 3 years old. I mean, he's just has the
Oh,
most.
where did it come from?
I know, right? I know. He's an exceptional
Great.
individual.
That's amazing. No, what I was going to say about Finn was that he had these like superpowers that he couldn't have developed to compensate from from being dyslexic at school because
Yeah,
he learned very early that he was dyslexic and he just decided, oh, well, I'm stupid kind of thing because
yeah,
that's what they let him think.
yeah,
But I mean, I always told him he was not. He was super smart and,
yeah,
charismatic and everything. he could remember the dialogue from a film like just watching it once.
Wow.
He could sing perfectly and very musical. He just has all of these talents that seem it's almost like something's taken away, but you're given these other things. But actually, now that he's grown, I never see any evidence of dyslexia. I think just
Yeah.
going on the phone and the spell check and everything. But he didn't have any of the treatment you're talking about for your son, but I'm very interested to find out about that.
So I noticed earlier when you were when talking about the lipstick burn bubble,
Mm.
you used your left hand and your left eye. So you're a lefty. Are you?
No, I'm right-handed. That's so
Oh, that's
funny. I
strange.
didn't
That, yeah.
I think I might have the ability to use both hands, but not to write.
Uh-huh.
But I remember like handing Finn something to see if he was left or right-handed when he was about one, little in the car seat. And he was ambidextrous. He could use
Yeah.
both. Like he'd take one or the other, it didn't matter. It was really, yeah. But what I was going to say, Sue, is my dad didn't learn to read or write. Well, he learned to read when he was a grown man, but he never went to school. He was always sick with asthma. And
Oh,
so, he couldn't read the paper, so he could read. But if he had to write something really bad, and he was dyslexic, he would ask me how to spell things, and so he'd write really slowly. And
yeah.
then he and my sister and I all have this sort of I don't know what it's called, but it's like some brain glitch
Yeah.
where I don't know my left from my right at all. I have to do this to see, oh, that's L for left. And even then, I
Yeah.
still struggle. Yeah. Um, maps, the most fights I ever had with Baz, we weren't really a fighting couple, but we would fight in the car because we'd be in France and I'd have the great big road map. And he'd be going, where do I go? And I'd be like, I don't know. And I would literally have to turn the map
Yeah.
around so that it was going in the direction that we were going. And he would be like, what are you doing? Just look at. So he could not compute that my
Yeah.
brain just doesn't understand maps. It's really weird. And
Yeah.
even with the phone, I'll get out of the station, put my destination in the phone, and the arrow's doing this, and I'm thinking, I don't know what it's telling me. I'm absolutely so I just ask young people. I'm like, you're young, you'll
Young
be able to tell
people.
me.
But hemispheric dominance isn't fixed until you're 7. It's one of the last
Oh,
neurodevelopment things to fall into place. And so, if you've got somebody who screens quite well, but they've got mixed dominance, then you know that whatever was going on in their brain occurred late, older than 2 and less than 7. Yeah,
really?
yeah.
So like injury, you mean like a brain injury?
Well, and any not really as severe as a brain injury as such, just a neurodiversity thing. So,
Right.
because we're not really meant to be completely ambidextrous, we're meant to have a dominant side, because otherwise it's
Yeah.
like having 2 drivers in a car. So it's like
Yeah.
one of the drivers wants to go to Helsinki and the other one wants to go to Aberystwyth. Okay. And so while this hemisphere is in charge of going that way up, and then this hemisphere is in charge of going that way. So you end up with the processing flicking, whereas I'm extremely hemispheric dominant. I'm left-handed, left-footed, left-eared, and left-eyed, and I have a very dominant right hemisphere. I'm massively creative. I'm a writer. I've been a professional photographer. I've written loads of books,
Yeah.
edited loads of magazines, and
So you got both sides fully developed. So you're creative and you're analytical and whatever the other
no,
thing is.
because
You've got both sides.
my left hemisphere, because I'm not mathsy at all, because I was horribly dyscalculate all through school,
Yeah.
horribly dyscalculate, never learnt anything in maths except that if you get it wrong, the teacher shout at you. That was my maths
I
education.
know. They're the terrifying teachers always, aren't they?
Yeah,
PE and maths, they're
I
some
have a real
subject.
problem with bullying people over their brain status. How dare they treat me like that? And not pick
You
up
know.
the fact that a bright girl, which I was, could not even add 2 numbers together without almost crying in class because I've been so bullied by them.
Yeah. No, it makes everything shut down.
Yeah, it does.
Um, I learned recently, well, in the last 5 years, that having trauma and complex childhood trauma is called a brain injury. It
Yeah,
actually injures your developing brain.
yeah.
How would that show up?
So when we go into um, shock or fight, flight, freeze, fawn, etc., we can get stuck in our amygdala. So our amygdala, the way I picture it is like a bicycle in the gym, just pedaling around, but you're not getting anywhere. So there's always whirring going on, but you can't use your hemispheres because you're stuck here.
Yeah,
So you can't use your rationality or reasoning. You're just stuck in a trauma state. But in
yeah,
German New Medicine, I don't know what you know about German New Medicine. It's a very
a lot.
interesting paradigm. And they
Mm,
actually do brain scans. And after shocks, you can actually see these rings of
yeah,
trauma in the brain. And I think that that is what
yeah,
they'd be talking about with regard to specific brain injury, because as we know, the body keeps score, and shocks are what lead on to disease very often. So if we've had a
yeah.
shock that we've not resolved, and a shock would classify as something unexpected, dramatic, isolating, no coping strategy. So being
Mm.
given horrible news, seeing a horrible incident, experiencing something unexpected, something bad happening to us physically or mentally, all of those things are a shock. And that does imprint the brain
Yeah.
with a circle, which you can find in the notes on German New Medicine when you look there. There's called the name, something
And
like,
the location, it's like what's it called? Oh, I can't think. But the location where this
yes,
little injury is
yeah.
corresponds to an organ or a system,
It
doesn't
does
it?
seem to, because the guy who discovered the German New Medicine thing, his son was called Dirk Hammer or something, and it's a DHR,
And
it's
he
what's
was
called the
shocked.
Dirk Hammer reaction, and it was discovered because his father, the boy, the Dirk Hammer, I can't remember which way around the people are, but he died suddenly, and the father then got prostate cancer, and then he started investigating people who got prostate cancer, and a lot of them had been through a really bad shock regarding their children. So he worked out.
Wasn't his son shot by, by one of the royal family, accidentally shot, and he died in his father's arms? Is that
I don't
correct?
know that. I can't remember, to be honest. I did watch the video the other day. Did I send it to you? Because I said I was going to send you the video. So
Maybe you did. I'll go and check.
I will double
Sorry,
check that as
because
well, because it's about an hour and a half long, but it's really good, and it shows you in the brain all these rings, and it's
like
quite.
lesions. Is it lesions? Is that the word, Sue?
I think it's lesion, yeah,
Lesions.
yeah. But you can
Yeah.
resolve things
But
with sorry.
it's a word you never want to hear.
Oh
There's a
yeah,
lesion. You know,
absolutely.
it sounds
Yeah,
very, doesn't
yeah,
it?
yeah. Not a good
Yeah.
word.
You were going
Uh,
to say you could resolve it.
well, like I had this mole removed last week here, and I had 5 stitches, as you know, and because that was possibly a bad word that we don't want to mention, and so I
No.
contacted the Germany medicine people and spoke to Richard Laker, who I usually speak to if I need help, and so I wrote my case out for him and told him I'm left-handed. And then he explained to
Mhm.
me what was going on, and it was probably something to do with specific things in my life. And we talked about
Yeah.
that, and identifying what it is that's probably the trigger resolves it. So hopefully
Brilliant. So
that,
just knowing what it was and being able to look at it, that resolves it.
yeah, because you make that connection. And it's a very interesting paradigm, actually, isn't it? When you can
It's
work
so
out what
interesting.
the dynamics are relating back to shocks. But the way I look at it
Well,
is that there are many paths up the mountain. So for me, as a homeopath, for you as a homeopath, most of the time it's going to be homeopathy, because we know how diverse it is and what we can treat with it. And with German New
yeah.
Medicine, they don't need a remedy, but they can do it by working out the dynamics. But they could then can't treat animals, babies, or anybody who's really not very well for whatever
Yeah.
reason. But we can. So
Yeah.
it's just many paths up the mountain, and I think they've all got their value in their place. Yeah,
Yeah, they really do. I love all of these modalities. The ones that are just really working with the body, like rather than against the body or with the emotions or
yeah,
the delusion or whatever it is, working with it, not stuffing it down and working against it.
Yeah,
It's
suppression
really
is so bad,
interesting.
isn't it? As we know as homeopaths, suppression is the opposite of what we want to do. I always remember my
Yeah.
homeopath originally, Mary and Howie, talking about that, how bad suppression is and how damaging it is.
Yeah. Well, when Finn was born, he had eczema, like he was like a little boiled ham. It was
Oh
so
my
bad.
goodness.
And always when you see something on the skin, you want to put something on.
Yeah.
But, I was learning homeopathy at the same time, and it's like, I can't suppress it. So trying to work out what sort of ointment or what I could use that wasn't suppressive, it was really difficult. It was a minefield. But anyway, his eczema was really cured by sulfur. It was
Oh, that's
amazing. It was
amazing.
pretty instant.
Sulfur is so
Yeah.
interesting, isn't it? Being the
Mm.
volcanic yellow and all of that, and eruptions that are
Yeah.
like volcanoes, and a little bit of doctrine of
And
signature
it's fast
there.
and furious. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. So
Yeah.
good. Um, yeah, so I have to I don't know if you can hear this kind of whining in the background,
No.
but it's dog o'clock because they get walked at this time every night and they know they're little routine creatures. So I should have said just before you called me, but anyway, I
Yeah.
will have to go to give
So,
these boys their evening walk.
oh,
A boy
bless.
and girl, not boys.
No problem. Well, let's catch up soon and do another chat soon. And it's been really fun talking to you without an agenda
I've
and
loved it.
where this went.
Yeah, no, I've loved learning from you, Sue. It's lovely. And you're not at all, superior or patronizing. Right? You're lovely. You're so good at just sharing what you know in
Thank
a really giving way. So, sometimes when someone's teaching you something and you
you.
feel
Yeah.
like, oh, shut up. I don't get that with you at all. I just feel like, oh, I'm really hungry to learn. It's
I love
amazing.
teaching
Really lovely.
neurodevelopment.
Thank
I absolutely love teaching it. It's so interesting. And when you're working with people, and it's like you can see all these like lights going on in their head as you explain something to them, and they're making new connections, and they're just like mind blown by this knowledge. It's so interesting.
you. Just beside me here, just at the bottom of Brighton Racecourse, there's a school. It says School for the Deaf. And these children, they're not just deaf. You can see that they have all sorts of, you know, bodily issues and mental issues. And, I think that they would benefit from you so
Yeah.
much, but I don't know
Well,
how,
maybe I could
how to
teach
make
you
that happen.
neurodevelopment, and then you can go and help them.
Just tell them as I'm walking the dogs, oh, can I show you this, this
Do
movement?
this. All right, my darling. Well, let's catch up really soon. And it's been lovely and gorgeous as always to chat with you. And I've enjoyed it as well. And have a lovely
All
week.
right, love.
See you soon.
Talk soon. Bye,
Lots of love.
darling. Bye.
Bye bye.